Good day, horror fans. Welcome to the House of Horror, where we turn your nightmares to reality. Today's story is about a young, ambitious realtor and a family with dark secrets, which they have no intent on hiding from her. Enjoy. The Cat Family by Vulcan. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe for weekly stories every Sunday. Warning. Story depict violence. Listeners' discretion is advised. The white lines of the road were like imprinted onto her eyes. She could still see the twisting and turning white lines, glowing under the bright yellow halogen headlamps of her car. Sometimes dotted, sometimes solid, but never-ending lines on the road. For miles upon miles her eyes glued to the white lines, like a funambulist walking a tightrope in pitch dark. The constant motion of being on the road for 11 hours, she could still feel herself swaying from right to left even after 3 hours. The never-ending rain of the August was not helping much either. She made it to the Leinanen residence in wee hours of the morning. After having breakfast with Leinanen Jr. and his wife Martha, she was directed to her room on the second floor of the two-story guest house. Anna was a 27-year-old interior designer who worked for a real estate company based in Helsinki. She made 3D images of interior for the company and acted as a realtor for them. Leinanen was her big break if she could seal the deal. Though, in the middle of nowhere, just 10 miles from Urho Kekkonen National Park and some 15 miles from Russian border. The house was some 50 kilometers from the nearest settlement and only K-Market in 80 kilometers radius. The residence was famous for being occupied by some famous and some infamous residents in the past. She needed to sleep at least 6 hours. Anna thought to herself, setting the alarm for 1 p.m., she closed the window of her room as the constant downpour outside continued. She glanced at the wallpaper image on her phone of Demo and her. She always took Demo on all her assignments. He has been a constant companion to her since her father passed away 2 years back. Demo was a year old then. Her father brought him when he was just 5 months old puppy. Now he was 3 years old, formidable German Shepherd. Anna felt kind of safety with Demo being around. But the Leinanen had specifically asked for not to bring any dogs, even the hair or smell on the cloths of any person visiting the house. It was stated due to the severe allergies of some Leinanens. Anna's boss bought her new cloths for good measure, as this deal was very important for the company as well. She set the phone on nightstand, leaned back into the generous pile of pillows in her bed, still feeling sway of constant motion and white lines in the dark behind her eyelids. She dozed off. Anna woke up with a feeling of stale warm breaths on her face. 2 large green eyes staring into hers, with a sound of purring that woke her up in the first place. The cat leapt off Anna as soon as she moved and disappeared into the darkness through the open window. Window that Anna remembered closing before she went to sleep. Darkness. Anna quickly turned to her phone sitting on the nightstand. It was 8 p.m. She quickly got out of bed and got her robe around her and closed the window and left her room embarrassingly. Mr. Leinanen was in the corridor with a tray of food, seemingly walking towards her room. "Good evening, Miss Anna," Mr. Leinanen exclaimed. "How was your sleep?" He followed. Anna, feeling embarrassed for oversleeping, replied, "I am so sorry, I didn't hear the alarm." Mr. Leinanen cut her in the middle of her apology and explained how they didn't wanted to disturb her and even offered explanation for the open window. Mr. Leinanen explained, when she did not wake up after the alarm went off, Martha came into the room, closed the alarm and found her sweating from tiredness and fever. That is when she left the window open to cool down the room and let some fresh air in. Anna took the tray from Mr. Leinenen's hand and thanked embarrassingly and walked back to her room. As she was about to open her door, she turned and asked, "Mr. Leinenen, that Siamese, is it yours?" To which Mr. Leinenen replied, "So, you have met Miss B?" "Yes, she was in the bed this evening with me. Ran out of window when I woke up. Hope she is fine. There can be wild animals out there." Anna continued with an embarrassed, uncertain tone. Mr. Leinenen cut her in the middle again, saying, "Miss Anna, do not worry, have your meal. I have placed Panadol and Brufen next to your meal, whichever suits you. Do not worry about Miss B. She after all rules this part of the forest." Mr. Leinenen excused Anna and disappeared around the corner into the hallway. Anna took her meal to the bed, took one Brufen after that, and started preparing her equipment for the next day. When Anna removed cover off the camera, she noticed Demo's hair on it. Anna remembered last time when she left it on the sofa. He sat on it and how she couldn't find it for hours. Anna brushed the hair and thought to herself, "It is almost undetectable," while smelling the cover by placing it next to her nose. She drained the removed hair down the toilet. Her head was still throbbing, and she went to sleep a second time, this time setting the alarm and placing the phone right next to her pillow. Next day she woke up even before the alarm went off. Anna felt well rested and vitalized. She headed out with her camera and bulky tripod. She thought she can capture the exterior before everyone was awake, and then she could start with the interior. Sun was breaking across the horizon, and light seemed just about perfect to capture some great shots. As soon as she set her tripod in the grass across the house, Mr. Leinenen appeared from behind the outhouse sauna building. "Good morning, Miss Anna," Mr. Leinenen exclaimed. He was in a tracksuit, seemed to have just returned from a jog. "Marcus and Ilias will be returning soon. Me and Martha will be visiting the town. Food will be ready in the kitchen. Please help yourself when you are done," Mr. Leinenen continued. Anna was surprised seeing him coming out of the dense forest this early in the morning without any source of light. The forest was still dark. By the time he would have went in there, it would have been blindingly dark. With all this going through her mind, Anna managed a smile and replied with a jolly, "Good morning, Mr. Leinenen, I will do that." He entered the house and Anna continued with her work. By the time Anna was done with the front angles, Mr. and Mrs. Leinenen came out ready for the town. They accompanied Anna to the rear of the house, where cars were parked, on a dirt patch just of the dirt road that led to the house. Just as they got into their car, a Dodge Ram truck pulled into the dirt patch right next to them. In it were two boys. One looked 15 to 16 years old, while other was in his early 20s. Anna figured they must be Marcus and Ilias. Mr. Leinenen lowered his window and instructed the elder of the two, "Ilias, this is Miss Anna. Help her with anything she needs." Both boys waved back in affirmation, and the couple pulled onto the dirt road. Ilias took a large box from the truck and proceeded to walk by Anna. He nodded and wished her a good morning, while Marcus also picked a box and started to walk towards Anna. By that time, she had removed the camera from the box and proceeded to remove its cover. Marcus stopped in his tracks and started to smell the air like an animal. Anna hardly ignored the odd behavior, and as she was removing the tripod from the box, she heard a large thud, and as she lifted her face to find the source of it, Her jaws met a brutal jab. As she hurtled back towards the ground from the force of impact, a second figure leapt over her and tackled her assailant to the ground. This is the last thing she saw before hitting ground. As she was finding her bearings, she could see through her dim vision Marcus hissing and puffing like a wild animal, while Ilias kept him pinned to the ground in a bear hug. Right at cue, Mr. and Mrs. Leinonen pulled onto the dirt patch and ran towards Anna, yelling instructions at Ilias to take Marcus inside the house. As Martha helped her get on her feet, Anna felt warm wet liquid on her chin and neck where Marcus has connected. Martha quickly, almost inhumanly, helped Anna on her feet and brought her to the living room and started to clean her face. Mr. Leinonen joined them in the living room soon after and proceeded to explain the attack and offered apology. "Miss Anna, I asked categorically that no dog smell on anything you bring in this house. I have taken care of it. Now please make sure you do not have anything that reeks of your pooch." Mr. Leinonen continued, "You see, Marcus have a condition where he cannot stand the smell of a dog. As you have figured, it inspires violent reactions. He have no control over this." Anna, confused and in shock, could only muster up a feeble sorry behind her breath. As Mr. Leinonen held her hand and started to explain further, Anna felt like a blanket of calm and warmth has been wrapped around her. She started to feel relaxed, like all her worries are being washed away by every word Mr. Leinonen uttered. She could not make out what he was saying, but it all seemed to soothe her. Before she even noticed, she was in her room, sitting on the bed as he leaves, suggesting her to rest. Alone in her room, Anna realized she was feeling lightheaded and drugged up. The blue, red, green in front of her eyes might be the after effects of the impact her brain suffered. She rationalized in her hazy thoughts that it was best to sleep. She remembered very little of what just happened, but she realized she needed some sleeping aid to rest her spinning head. She remembered she had some Novanite in her bag. As she was trying to blindly feel around the bag for her pills, she found Woolly Weasel in her bag. It was the first toy that her father had bought for Demo. She seemingly had forgotten to drop it with him at her aunt's place. Anna felt bad for Demo, as he never slept without Woolly Weasel, though at the same time holding his favorite toys. She felt kind of relief. She brought it near her nose to smell it. As soon as she caught a whiff of it, a wave of clarity washed over her. Suddenly the trance broke. She could remember clearly what has just transpired. With the clarity, the pain seemed to have returned with a vengeance, and she took a pill and went to bed. The sun was peeking through the rows of trees. Anna was barefoot walking towards the large pine tree in the middle of the clearing. Miss B was leading the way. At the base of the tree was tied a dog, a German Shepherd. She had a knife in her hand. As she approached the tree, she kneels down next to the dog, raised her knife in both hands and started stabbing the dog. As the dog screamed and flailed, in front of her eye Miss B turned to a humanoid figure. This creature with face of a cat held the dog down as Anna stabbed it to its last breath. As soon as the dog stopped flinching, Anna breaks out of her trance. She stands up and starts screaming. Anna wakes up screaming in the bed, all sweaty and wet. First thing she notices is that the window is open and Martha standing next to her bed. "Easy, easy, you have seen a nightmare. Everything is fine. Drink some juice." Martha offered her some orange juice and left the room. Anna downed the glass in one go, which revived her aching body. As soon as she stepped down, she realized her feet were wet and covered in soil. Martha returned to the room with a tray of food. "Did I sleepwalk during the nightmare?" Anna inquired, to which Martha replies in a motherly soft manner, "No dear, I was here the whole time. You just saw a bad dream. That's it. Now eat up and pack your bag. We have a family camping and hiking trip today. We all leave in 2 hours around 9 a.m. To Anna's surprise, she had slept the whole day and night. "What? Is it Wednesday?" Anna inquired in a surprised tone. "Yes, my dear, I guess you needed it. We tried to wake you, but you slept too deep. It's normal, you might have needed it after yesterday's mishap. Now please eat something and be ready." Martha left the room, and as Anna ate her breakfast, her mind drifted back to that dream. The fact that her bare feet were covered in soil while she slept with her socks on. But then again, she slept for 24 hours. Maybe her memory was playing tricks on her. It was a 30 minutes drive to the destination and another hour of walking before the marked trails started. The trail had a steady incline for what seemed like 2 kilometers, after which it was mostly flat. Though, slight decline was apparent at the end of which was a creek, bifurcating bogs from the rocky terrain. Stream was not that deep, and after crossing it a trail appeared made of wooden planks going through the bogs. At the end of bog the trail continued into a dense forest with a fork in the trail. That led to a rest stop with a fireplace, lean-to shelter, and a nature hut. It was starting to get a little cold as the sun went below the horizon, though it was still bright. The two boys kept walking ahead of everyone all the way though. Now Marcus was clearly trying to stick around Anna. After several minutes of fiddling around with the tent, Marcus uncomfortably expressed his regret over what happened. He promised, soon enough she will understand it all. This left Anna a little disconcerted, though she thought to herself, it is after all a rich eccentric family. Everyone set up your tents and gather around fire, it's time for a cooking. Mr. Leinen already started a fire inside the fire pit. After setting up the tents, everyone gathered around the fire. Marcus and Ilya carried a black sack and set it next to the fire. Mr. Leinen started, "See, Miss Anna, there is no simple way to say it you. The dream that you saw was not a dream." Mr. Leinen pointed to the black sack. Anna's first reaction was not of surprise, but that of horror and disgust. Disgust she felt all along, knowing what she remembered was not in a dream but reality. "See, Miss Anna, we worship Bastet. She appeared to and marked you. Like she marked all of us. She chooses her flock, and she have chosen you." Anna could not understand what Mr. Leinen was saying, but Mr. Leinen continued. "See, Miss B is actually Goddess Bastet, and as I said, she rules this part of the forest. Everyone living here is her follower, Marcus the newest one. She marked him while camping in the national park and guided him to us. The dog that you sacrificed was one of his. Do not panic, I know it is a lot to take in, but we will explain everything. You are one of us now." Anna's disgust grew and was apparent on her face, but she knew she cannot show her panic. Not at this time, she had to find right time to make an escape, so she played along. "So, what next?" Anna tried to look unfazed as she questioned. He continued, "Look, Miss Anna, you have been marked, and you have given her a sacrifice. Now you will experience some changes in you, similar to what Marcus has experienced." "What kind of changes?" Anna asked. "Severe violent reactions towards canines, urges to hunt, eat raw meat are a few things. With time you will be able to control all this, but until then we have to keep you under our supervision." Mr. Leinen gestured to the boys, who pulled the dog carcass out of the sack and hung it above the fire. Anna's disgust grew. She did not believe that crazy man's stories, but one thing she believed was that family was dangerous. They must have drugged her with hallucinogens and made this story up. She made a plan in her mind that she will escape during the night and never come here again. As she was thinking this to herself, Martha took out a lunch box full of raw organ meat, apparently from the dog, and started to hand it around to everyone to eat. "This is from our last sacrifice to Bastet and to a new member of our family." Everyone started chewing on the meat like wild animals and passed it on. Anna, though disgusted, was now freaking out and out of fear did not react and started to mouth one piece. The blood and slime felt disgusting in her mouth, but she felt she had no options. The night went on with unremarkable discussion like any normal family, and Anna's disgust grew every hour. Then everyone slowly started to go to the tents and sleep. As Anna felt the coast was clear, she gathered her essentials, stole the car's keys, and started back on the track. To her surprise, she didn't need the light in dark to navigate, and she wrote it off to her heightened level of adrenaline. Her pace was also faster than what she ever physically expected of herself. And by early morning she made it to the parking space. She never would have thought she was capable of trekking through wilderness, and that is at night. She drove 30 minutes back to Leinen residence and got her stuff into her car as fast as she could. She punctured the tires of all cars in the house and just booked it out of there. The drive back was uneventful, and she made it in 10 hours straight to her aunt's place. She decided not to inform her company yet, as she was feeling overwhelmed and tired. She went straight to her home with Demo and decided to sleep off the exhaustion. As soon as she hit the couch, she fell asleep. Clearly all that action was too much for her to handle. Next thing she remembered was she woke up with phone ringing in her purse. She checks the time. It was 9 p.m. Sunday. She slept for 3 days straight to her surprise, but she felt amazing. As soon as she moved, Demo ran up to her and started licking her face. As soon as he put his snout over her face, something snapped inside of her. She bit a chunk out of his face, and before she knew it, she was ripping the flesh out of the dog with her bare hands. Thank you for listening to The Cat Family by Vulcan. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe for weekly stories every Sunday.